NANI?!
Follow-up set is actually good on Kafka. With the latest version 1.5 livestream comes 4 brand new relic sets: the Ash Blazing Grand Duke for follow-up attackers, Prisoner in Deep Confinement for DOT attackers, Firmament Frontline Glamoth as the alternative to Space Sailing Station, and Penacony Land of the Dreams for mono element team comps. I'm sure everyone is wondering, are they even worth farming for? How much more damage does these 4 sets provide, and who are the best users? Hey guys, Mr. Pokke here, back with another video, and today we will be going through the definitive guide to version 1.5's 4 new relic sets with in-depth calculations across C and tier crafters to summarize exactly who should be using these sets, the damage output increase, as well as helping you guys determine if you actually need to farm them. Heads up, the answer may surprise you, and without further ado, let's get into today's content. Getting straight to the point, the first set we're going to be discussing is the Ash Blazing Grand Duke, where 2-piece increases the damage dealt by follow-up attacks by 20%, and a 4-piece effect is when the wearer uses follow-up attacks, it increases the attack percentage by 6% every single time the follow-up attack deals damage. This effect stacks up to 8 times and lasts for 3 turns, but it is removed the next time the wearer uses a follow-up attack. Being our first and only follow-up attack set, Grand Duke's best in slot users truly gain a significant damage buff compared to the older 4-piece sets, but the beneficiaries are few and far between due to the restrictive criteria. This is due to the last line, effect is removed the next time the wearer uses a follow-up attack. So units like Clara gaining only a single 6% attack buff due to the high follow-up frequency but landing only a single hit. Units that have low follow-up attack hits or unreliable triggers like Yanqing and E4 Qingque also face similar issues. But that being said, the slower follow-up attack frequency units with multiple hits such as Jingyuan, Topaz, and Himeko will see strong benefits, being able to retain the large attack percentage buff for long periods of time, and also partly due to Sizzling and Firesmith's current lackluster 4-piece effect in comparison to Grand Duke. So here are some of the numbers that I've taken across multiple CN tier crafters. One of the source states that Topaz using the 4-piece follow-up attack does roughly 7% more damage than Topaz with the previous 2+2 set. For Jingyuan, that number goes up to 10.27% using the follow-up set, and unfortunately for Clara, the physical 4-piece set still outperforms the 2+2 follow-up attack and physical set by roughly 1.77%. Another theory crafter is taking a look at Jingyuan's damage comparison. You can see that for the follow-up attack set, the damage difference is not really extremely high compared to the Lightning 4-piece set, partially due to the fact that Jingyuan is almost always including Asta in the team, and with Asta, the attack percentage buff follow-up set provides is definitely gonna have reduced impact as compared to the Lightning 4-piece, which still has the Lightning 10% damage increase. By the end of the day, it is still higher than Lightning 4-piece. And then for Topaz, she is a very good benefactor for Grand Duke's follow-up set because for Topaz particularly, most of the time she is lacking attack percentage buffs like I mentioned in the previous Topaz guide, because you are likely going to be running speed boots. There are even occasions where players are running energy regeneration rope on Topaz. So generally speaking, Topaz attack percentage is really low, and she also already has fire damage percentage from her tracers. So therefore attack percentage buffs, especially from the follow-up 4-piece, is going to be a lot more beneficial. And this can be seen from a 3 skill into 1 ultimate number hit is going to be a roughly 14% increase compared to 2+2 fire and musketeer, and then for the 4 basic attack and 1 ultimate is going to be roughly 8% final damage increase. Now the reason why Topaz still gains such a big final damage increase despite the fact that every single one of her damaging hits are considered follow-up attack is because Nambi's hits has very high instances of follow-up attack triggers. So Nambi during its non-enhanced state easily stacks up to 7 stacks of the follow-up attack stack. And during the enhanced state, it stacks up to the full 8 stacks. and that's why Topaz is still able to gain almost 100% buff coverage uptime whenever using follow-up attack 4-piece, despite the fact that she has a high follow-up attack frequency. Now for Clara, like I mentioned earlier just now, she's unable to gain the full benefits of follow-up attack set, usually only gaining a single stack of 6% attack buff, and therefore it is definitely not as strong compared to the champion 4-piece set. But a 2+2, where you run 2-piece follow-up attack with either 2-piece Musketeer or 2-piece champion, is going to be a decent side grade if players do not want to farm the physical domain, right? So you can see for the basic attack and skill, the 4-piece champion is definitely going to out damage since it is not considered as a follow-up attack at all. But for her follow-up attack specifically, the difference is pretty much just 0.5 to 1% if we're going to be using 2+2 from the 4-piece champion. And therefore for Clara, players can consider running a 2+2 if they do not want to farm the 4-piece champion set. And then finally, moving on to Himeko, if players are going to be running speed boots on Himeko, the follow-up 4-piece is going to provide a more than 15% final damage increase. But if players are using the attack boots on Himeko, then it's going to drop down slightly to 11%. Nonetheless, the follow-up 4-piece is still an excellent alternative compared to Firesmith's 4-piece. One major reason is just because Firesmith's 4-piece effect is just really not that optimal, and despite the fact that Himeko doesn't really have a very high follow-up attack frequency, she still gained almost the full benefits from the attack percentage, especially when facing against scenarios where there are a lot of mobs for Himeko's follow-up to gain the full 8 stacks. Unfortunately, if Himeko is only against elite enemies like 1 elite, then this attack percentage buff from follow-up's 4-piece is not going to be as impactful. For Himeko, it's very dependent on the scenarios where players are using her in, but generally speaking, she's still an excellent recipient for the 4-piece follow-up attack set. Now, moving on to one final unit that actually benefits quite a surprising amount is Kafka. Now, Kafka's single follow-up attack is composed of 6 different hits, means she has a permanent 36% attack uptime, which is excellent for DOT scaling. This will be demonstrated again later in the DOT 4-piece, but as you can see from the damage chart over here, it is almost comparable to Sizzling 4-piece, where having a 36% attack buff versus 10% lightning damage and 20% attack buff will have almost negligible at a 0.5% final damage difference. Now, this result will definitely vary depending on the buffers that we have with Kafka. For example, if players are using R-Star with Kafka, this increases the attack percentage that Kafka will receive, and it will make the 10% lightning damage from 4-piece Sizzling much more valuable. But the bottom line is, it is a potential set for players if we have a Grand Duke with attack and speed subs, which means that farming for Kafka is even more flexible when farming for this specific domain. This video is proudly sponsored by Supps. Ever wanted to feel hyper energized and pumped up like Mr. Pokke on stream? Ever wanted to achieve 30 pull-ups and 60 push-ups in a single sitting? But most importantly, do you want to see Mommy Pokke being featured on a waifu cup in the future? Then Supps is for you. With zero sugar, keto friendly, and tons of different flavors ranging from Grandpa's Ashes as well as Anime Girl Diet, which is restocking as we speak. Start fueling your Honkai style playing experience without the sugar and without the calories. Use code Pokke for 10% off your total order purchase. Once again, thank you Supps for sponsoring this video. Now moving on to the DOT set, Prisoner in Deep Confinement. 2-piece effect, attack increased by 12%, and 4-piece effect, for every single DOT the target is afflicted with, the wearer will ignore 6% of his defense when dealing damage up to 18%, which is 3 DOTs. Now this is extremely strong with a potential 18% defense reduction, almost rivaling Genius 4-piece 20%. And as we know by now, stacking defense reduction is currently the only form of debuff that provides exponential benefits the more we stack. And the simple chart over here that I've shown in the past previously shows that an 18% defense reduction, even from 0%, is almost an 11% final damage increase. So if players want to stack on defense reduction even further via the Resolution Light Cone or a secondary unit like Pella or Silver Wolf, or even facing against the Exploding Goldfish depending on enemy mobs, then the damage output increase from the 18% defense reduction will be the highest increase across any damage multipliers. The Prisoner's 2-piece is also a 12% attack buff just like Musketeer, making it a pretty flexible 2+2 if players obtain decent crit subs and still want to use this Prisoner 2-piece. That being said, for Prisoner to gain the full benefits we do need to stack on 3 different damage over time, meaning a secondary DOT unit is almost a must. Now do note that Asta's basic attack burn is also considered as a DOT, which further cements Asta's excellent placement across all DOT teammates with a DOT burn, speed buff, as well as attack percentage buff. Now looking at some of the numbers over here, first we can look at Kafka. We do need 3 stacks of DOT applied on a target for us to outperform 4P sizzling, but the damage difference is honestly not that strong. It's only a 2.3% higher, and that's assuming 3 stacks of DOT. But if we were to add on further defense reduction sources such as Resolution Light Cone and Pella, then you can see that it will start to steadily outperform the 4-piece lightning from 114.8% to 115.9% to 118.3%. So the more we stack on defense reduction, the higher the damage is gonna do. And in the future, I do foresee MiHoYo introducing more and more Nihility units that introduces defense reduction capabilities. So there's no harm in farming for DOT set if players want to improve their Kafka or any DOT units. Right, and speaking of other DOT units, here are the 3 different DOT targets: Gwen, Sampo, and Luca, and they all roughly have a 5 to 8% damage increase, which at the end of the day, it is not that substantial compared to follow-up attacks damage increase for like Topaz, Himeko, and Jingyuan. So the bottom line, for players who want to invest in DOT units, then farming for Prisoner 4-piece is definitely going to provide them with an upgrade. It is not an extremely high upgrade as compared to the Grand Dukes. Players that do not want to improve on their follow-up attack set because they already have a very decent set with excellent subs, then players can definitely choose to forsake farming this domain and just stick with their old sets. Now moving on to the new World 8 set, first of all being Firmament Frontline Glamoth. It increases the wearer's attack by 12%, and when the wearer's speed is equivalent or higher than 135 or 160, it gains an additional 12 or 18% higher damage percentage. So between the 2 new planar sets, Glamoth is essentially a better version of Space Sealing Station. If the subset distribution are exactly the same and players are not using a support that over buffs on damage percentage, then Glamoth will be a definitive upgrade over Space Sealing Station, even at 135 speed, where we get 12% damage instead of 18% damage. Always remember that stacking on too much attack percentage or even damage percentage would not be ideal for any DPS damage output. For some of the numbers over here, one of the recipient is definitely going to be Seele, because Seele is one of the only units in the entire game that can easily attain the 160 speed. So you can see here, even against Routine Arena, it outperforms, but only by a very marginal amount, between 3% to 2% respectively when using speed boots or attack percentage boots. Now note that this is really only for players whose Seele is E0 S1 or E2 Seele, because if you are going to be using an E0 S0 Seele, then there is no point stacking on speed for Seele just to hit the 160 speed, which will result in us losing crit ratios and attack percentage. This is also not factoring in the increased crit rate we get from Routine Arena or even South Soto, and this would definitely provide some sort of quality of life for players where more crit chance makes it much more comfortable to play. And this is going to be based on my personal experience where my Seele, even at 90% crit chance, still misses her crit. So to summarize, for Seele, it is a very minor upgrade, and if players already have an excellent Routine Arena set, then players can definitely keep on using Routine Arena. But if players are farming for Glamoth and we do have a Glamoth piece that has excellent crit ratio, we can definitely use it for Seele. Now moving on to another class of units that are excellent benefactors is going to be our 4 DOT units: Kafka, Sampo, Luca, and Gwen. As you can see here, compared to Space Sealing Station, it is just an outright upgrade even if we don't hit the 160 speed. Even if we are at 135 speed, it is still roughly a 3% to 1% increase in final damage, and if we do hit 160 speed, then this number goes up to be even higher. Of course, if players want to hit 160 speed and we don't have the best gears, then we might need to slot in Asta to help us achieve this threshold. And then for our final set, Penacony Land of the Dreams, the 2 pieces increase the wearer's energy regeneration by 5% and increase damage by 10% for all allies that are of the same type as the wearer, which is exactly the same as our Planetary Rendezvous Light Cone. So this looks like an upgraded version of Vonwaq with a 10% damage increase for all allies, but unfortunately it's only applied to the same damage type. Now also, players do need to consider that if this is a better upgrade than a 10% crit damage stacking via Broken Q, as well as the effect resistance being an excellent stat for any sustain or support players. In reality, 10% crit damage and 10% damage percentage has essentially no difference, not even 1%. So in most cases, the real reason for players to convert from from Q to Penacony is for the 5% energy regeneration, helping them hit their respective energy thresholds. So one excellent example is going to be Jingyuan, who previously lacked 3.4 energy to have a 3-turn skill auto attack ultimate cycle without getting hit over 3 turns. This is an extremely rare situation for Jingyuan to not get hit across 3 turns, but if players want to improve their consistency, then they can consider using Penacony to guarantee a 3-turn ultimate even without getting hit, while still providing a 10% damage buff to lightning DPS like Kafka and Jingyuan. And another example is going to be for Silver Wolf, especially for E1 Silver Wolf. For E1 Silver Wolf, using Penacony guarantees a 2-turn ultimate, assuming our ult hits a target with 5 debuffs. Instead of previously, if we were to use Q or Fleetless, we're only at 107.4 energy. Now, it is much more likely for Silver Wolf to not get hit compared to the Jingyuan scenario. You basically only have 2 turns to get hit instead of 3 turns. Also, Mono Quantum is always going to be paired with Silver Wolf, so it is very likely that this will become Silver Wolf's best in slot for comfort, especially if players want to achieve a consistent 2-turn ultimate if your Silver Wolf is at Idolin 1. To summarize, for the 4-piece New Cavern relics, Prisoner is a direct upgrade for all duty units, while Grand Duke is a major direct upgrade for some follow-up attackers with low frequency and high hits per follow-up. For the 2-piece effect, Glamoth is a definitive upgrade to Space Sealing Station, while the Penacony's true value is really in the 5% energy regeneration instead of the damage percentage when compared with Broken Q. Generally speaking, the 4-piece sets have more value just because of how universal Roll 7 is for Kill and Routine Arena. And with that, we have come to the end of version 1.5's Relic analysis. If you guys want to engage in any further discussions, feel free to check out my Discord at Pokke's Village, where we're a very active community talking about Honkai Star on a daily basis. If you guys want to catch my stream, that's going to be twitch.tv/MrPokke, where I stream roughly 2 to 3 times a week. Schedule will be updated on Discord as well. With that, we've come to the end of today's content, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.